Hi there, my name's Nick Francis. I'm the Chief Products Officer for Brooklyn Vendor Assurance. This is Chapter 3 of the BVA Risk Management the Basics course. It is an introduction to risk management and the basic principles to apply when managing vendors at scale. Chapter 3 covers how what you've learned in Chapter 1 and 2 is related to a company strategy, so switching gears from a personal context into a corporate context to understand a bit more about how you'd apply what you use in your everyday life in a business sense. So, risk management and how it relates to a company strategy. So as an example here, we're going to use a fictional company called Big Bank. Right? So Big Bank have created a strategy. Right? They've spent a lot of money with one of the typically Big Four consultants to come in and help them define what their strategy is as an organisation. And ultimately, what's going to come out of this is a number of objectives. Right? So from a strategic level, there'll be strategic objectives that aligns to the rest of the business. So when you look at objectives, you break them down as, and in this capacity, what you learned in Chapter 1 and 2 about the goal, you just swap the goal in a corporate sense for the word objectives. So what was your goal before is now your objectives, and there's a similarity there. So as an objective, you look at what are the value drivers, so what will drive you towards your objective and thus goal, and then you can list them down. Also, for part of objectives is actions, so you obviously, as part of outlining your objective, that breaks down granularly into actions you need to do to meet those objectives. And from that you can discern what are your key performance indicators. So what against those, either an objective level or an individual action level, are the metrics that you can use to track what is a positive sense that means you are performing in that space against either that objective or action. To the side of that comes risk appetite. So risk appetite essentially is the amount and type of risk that an organisation is prepared to pursue, retain or take. So it's what are you willing to do to deliver your objectives. I won't dwell on this too much now. You'll find out more about risk appetite and setting that in Chapter 6 in future. But what is under risk appetite is the key risks. So what you would have seen earlier in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 are the identification of key risks against your goal. So this is where this similar thing lives. So what are the key risks against you as a Big Bank in this case from achieving your strategy, and what are the key risks against your objectives? Once you know those key risks, you can then start putting in place key risk indicators. So what are the metrics that show that those key risks are moving to becoming more of a potential issue, and where you saw the issue flame in Chapters 1 and 2. Similar to objectives, when you have key risks, there's actions you take to ensure that those risks don't become reality. There are assessments that you run, which is similar to treatments, is where the treatment bits come from, as to how do you treat the key risks continually over time, how do you assess whether they get any worse, are they near crystallising, are they nearer to becoming an issue? And then there's events to manage around that to ensure that those key risks don't become an actual issue, or in some cases when they do become an issue, there's an event to return it to just a risk and no longer an issue. With key risks comes the need to identify key controls. It's between key risks and key controls that what we saw earlier in terms of the causes live. So once you understand the causes or the symptoms or the triggers in this case to what would make the risk crystallise, you can then discern from that the key controls that you can put in place, very much like the treatments that we ran through. And under key controls, in a similar way, there are key control indicators that are metrics, one or more, against every key control to ensure that they are not again becoming an issue or moving towards the point of crystallising. Key controls, we'll come to this a bit later, but key controls can be leading or lagging, so they can be looking at it in a sense of where it's a leading indicator or it's a lagging indicator, and again from those you will take actions, you will assess, and then you will, in places, potential certification comes into this, so like ISO certifications and SOX, so Sarbanes-Oxley is one of the more common frameworks, COVID 5 and ITIL are all potential control environments that you can use to measure. So that is converting what you learned in Chapters 1 and 2 and looking at how you bring that back to a corporate setting, and the key points of which were about goals, risks and causes, where that overlays in a corporate sense. Hopefully that was useful for you. Chapter 4 will go into a bit more about what are the key performance indicators, what are the key risk indicators, and what are the key controls. I'll give you examples of them to work with. That's that for next time. Thank you.